afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another exciting bit of Propagandacast news from the host, Imperial Dane. We got another update for the December balance preview. It is 1.6 and there's, well, quite a few changes. Overall, for just general balance changes now made, the demo charts can be spotted from even further away, but can't be diffused at all. Now you have to bloody well shoot it, and shoot it good. Beyond that, like mostly nerfs to the Axis, sort of in a more general sense. King Tiger gets nerfed, and so on. Allies gets a few changes as well. Some things are being sort of toned down a bit as well, though now all American officers can fire smoke. So, yeah, I mean, they're still not, actually fixing the main issue, which is the rifle are just easily blobbable. Now they're just smoothing the smoke a bit about, but, they're still going to end up using it to support a blob, so I'm not entirely sure what it is they're actually intending to fix, because they're not really fixing the core issue, which is that riflemen are very blobbable. So that's one thing there that's sort of, already sort of bit, really? And, yeah, those are sort of the, I think, sort of more general balancing. Again, they're nerfing stuff for the most part. But nothing sort of really, I think, worth mentioning. Or, well, actually, on further inspection, I was definitely not sure about it. On the flak half track, and this is actually big, it's the lowered requirement for experience. That means you can venture up faster, hitting eventually too fast, which is critical. And the MD-34 gets a buff, gets a bit more expensive in the hand, gets more damage overall, so that way it actually has more of an impact versus the enemy. So there's a good thing. So also this is 3 fires, less shots per barrage. They would have just preferred them making the barrage expensive. Still be, a easily spammable artillery ability on a 6-man anti-tank gun crew. That still feels a bit overperforming. But beyond that, nothing big. The bigger changes are basically with the Allied, the Western Front commanders, or Command West, basically with the Firestorm, we can see here, basically now has an assault package where the foe can have access to from 70 munitions in a, you actually need to upgrade headquarters, high explosive grenades, smoke grenades, and MP40s. That way turning into an assault squad with some impact there. But you also get the flamethrowers, light infantry guns get incendiary munitions, allowing to fire that. Or the blitz truck is basically sort of a, well, transport's a bit like the half truck without machine gun, without the armor, but on the other hand, can sort of boost the reload of nearby units and also the ability to recharge. They can sort of throw grenades more often, or whatever you want them to. So they can transport infantry, reinforce infantry. They basically get something mobile. The Orbital Commander finally sort of begins resembling remotely the force that actually attacked during the Ardennes, back to getting some at least motorized infantry. Finally, it only took them 2 years, if not 3 actually, now that I'm thinking about it. Flammhetzer gets buffed more seriously. Then moving on to the Luftwaffe Commander, that one basically gets a better version, sort of buffed on the flak emplacement. That one sort of now has some more stats of the flak half tech. Also becomes harder to wipe, so that's good. And there's also some changes to the air calling ability there. The Luftwaffe Assault now can call it anywhere, plus there's a guaranteed anti-tank strafe, so that becomes a bit more with utility. I think Valiant Assault also gets a bit, I think it's just a cost reduction, if I'm not mistaken. And then the Fallschirmjägers. This one's a bit weirder. They just reduced the number of men called in to like 3, and they do the same thing with the commanders, except now the infiltration commanders can be forced to 5 men. The Fallschirmjäger still only 4. And they also get a cost reduction of 40. So in that regard, it gets a bit weirder there, because problem is, if you reduce them to 3 men on infiltration, you really undercut, well, what's the purpose of calling them in then? Because they're just going to be incredibly vulnerable to being wiped for a very high price tag. I mean, you just want them to call them off map, and at that point, you're just paying a huge price anyways. It just feels pretty weird. And if they're really such a big issue, I mean, I definitely rate the commanders a big issue, because you see more firepower than the Fallschirmjägers. But if the issues are big, why not just give them rifle and then have their submachine guns or assault rifles or whatever be upgrades? That would pretty much fix it without necessarily making them easy to wipe. Because again, for the Orbital Commander Vest, it's really going to make the Fallschirmjägers a lot less valuable if again they go from 4 to 3 men. I mean, that's going to make them a lot less useful versus the Soviets, and so again versus any sort of light machine gun blobs or anything. It's going to also make them a lot less attractive when they are 3 men. I mean, it just really undercuts them, and it just seems like a really bizarre change, to be honest, and I'm definitely not on board with that one. I think they definitely just need to revert that one, and again just look towards giving them rifles, then having them upgrade to more assault oriented weaponry rather than, again, this kind of change, because that's just going to kill them as infiltration units on the spot. So there's that. I'm talking about the bridge as well. The commander airborne officer finally loses his, heroic charge, which basically made him and every unit around him more or less bulletproof. It has been severely toned down now. Thank the heavens. So moving on to the Americans, of course, this other one big one. People want to know, did that get changed? Yes, indeed. There were some big changes with their commanders. Recon support gets a lot of new abilities. Raid tactics instead of, I think it was the recon support basically sort of allows them to grab territory faster, a lot faster, at a reasonable price, plus to archer farther, and vehicles can capture faster. I mean, this is basically just a better and cheaper version of the British ability to sort of seize territory. The German ones, which only works sort of one way. So I mean, that one just seems too undercosted for what it can do already there. I mean, it's a powerful ability which then has an even bigger impact. I think they might have gone a bit too far there, personally. And then the sort of, the air support call in there for the 900 manpower has also been changed to just get a paratrooper squad, which can then upgrade to either being a light machine gun team or an elite bazooka team, which can ambush. Plus, you get an guaranteed anti-tank guns. That gives it a lot more utility. Greyhound got buffed as well. So, I mean, as Dave described, it's more like a Stuart now, just with canister shots. But, in theory, it basically means you can just go for lieutenants and then just get a lot of what you get off from the captain's position anyway, so that's just what you want. You can still get into tank guns, and you can still essentially get what amounts to Stuart, because basically sort of got better anti-infantry. Its canister shots all been made better, I think, or at least more useful. We'll have to see how much better it works out, though, but that's the theory anyways there. So there's some changes overall to recon support, and the INR Pathfinder's also been made a slightly better. They are more perform like other regular Pathfinders, though with one less marksman rifle. And I imagine they can still call in the artillery. So those are some changes there. Moving on to mechanized, which is really also gotten a big overhaul. First, the Dodge truck, now it's initially just sort of a transport vehicle, can then be upgraded to be more heavy assault oriented with a 50 caliber machine gun. Plus, it now gains mark target, so it can mark targets out. That way, basically, with the become easy to destroy the targets there. So that's a nasty one. They also get raid tactics, by the way. They also get a mortar half-track, which now also has gotten smoked. So basically, they're going to have mortar half-tracks with 4 types of barrages, which is completely and utterly bonkers. I think they might be overloading that one a bit, to be honest. Just a bit. And half-track, they're the one they have from the doctrine, also gets improved upon. Gets tougher, more durable, cheaper, and it can lay down medical crates now as well, which just gives it so much more utility than any other half-track in the game. And because we have to remember the 250 half-track is still in comparison a complete rubbish call-in, because that one is pretty much a bucket on treads. And now the American half-track can not only just fire pretty well because its machine gun got buffed, it can reinforce, transport, and provide healing. The 250 half-track can just shift troops about. I mean, it really just feels like, again, the 250 half-track was just something like they did it but didn't care, and it's just, really beginning to really show, again, just what kind of rubbish treatment the Wehrmacht as a whole, as a faction, is, getting. Because a lot of their sort of changes also happen there. For example, I can't even call it Osterman as fast, which is just a weird change to make, really. So, yeah. I mean, it just feels like the Wehrmacht is just sort of getting the, we're pretending to really do something, but in reality we're not doing that much treatment, increasingly. Except, of course, nerfing. They seem very much happier to nerf the Wehrmacht than actually buff it, despite the Wehrmacht late game isn't still in shambles. Of course, that's not all. On top of all of this for mechanized, it's also getting access to the 76mm Sherman, which is basically the Lend-Lease Sherman the Soviets has, except with American veterancy and the ability to fire smoke and cruise. So in many ways, it's basically a better M4C Sherman. You require tech and structures to get it, but still, it's overall better. Which is just, again, bonkers. And on top of that, now they get access to upgrades for the regular Shermans. So they get bulldozers, which makes them tough and allows them to make cover and destroy stuff. I mean, it just really seems like they went all out there. I mean, it really looks like an exciting commander, but again, sort of, again, compared with just how little they actually done to, make Wehrmacht late game viable, it just, again, really feels lopsided, and also feels like, all the talk about strategic diversity is very much just that. Talk, but no real action, to be honest. Like, they'll happily say, oh, we're planning on getting strategic diversity in there, but we're not actually seeing it unless we're the allies, apparently. Again, for the Germans, this is just going to so far reinforce current patterns, but it's not going to change them. It's very much going to, think, more than ever be pushed towards the tiger, because that's the only thing they're apparently actually afraid of nerfing, because they know people are actually going to catch on to that one and call them out on it. But yeah, pretty much everything else in the Wehrmacht arsenal is certainly increasingly lagging behind again for a late game faction. I mean, they really need to pull on the actually doing strategic diversity pants and buff the Wehrmacht late game, make it functional. Because I mean, at this pace, team games are definitely not going to be fun for the Axis, and even 1 versus 1s is going to be quite a challenge. I mean, they're basically going to force the Wehrmacht, the late game faction again, very much again, the late game faction according to them, to operate as an early game faction, because you cannot rely on the late game as the Wehrmacht at the moment, and this patch is so far only going to reinforce that by miles. So they really need to, pull it together there and, begin pushing for an actual late game for the Wehrmacht, some actual serious overhauls, because otherwise I'm going to find it a bit tricky, to recommend this patch, because so far, I mean, you're sure they can, revamp commanders and actually do a reasonably good job, but what they sure as hell can't do apparently is actually, gain strategic diversity, because again, so far I'm not seeing it. I am not seeing it one bit. So they really need to, get their act together there, no excuses, because otherwise I'm going to find it very difficult in any future patch then to take anything they say seriously if they can't even achieve that. So there you go. That is the Propagandacast news here with my opinion on how things are going, and again, they really need to get it together. It started initially positively again when they actually began listening, but it seems like they just figured, alright, people aren't, upset anymore, at least not too upset. I guess we just did fine, except, there's still a lot more work to do. And it just seems like they've just decided, well, not really. So, yeah, that's going to be needing a lot more work, to actually increase strategic diversity amongst both the Wehrmacht and the Oberkommando, but primarily the Wehrmacht. So thank you all for tuning in here. Hope you enjoyed this video. At least hope you sort of got something out of it. Didn't you? Subscribe, like, share, comment on it. If you like what I do consider donating or pledging on Patreon. Links in the video description. This is Imperial Dancing. Cheers. Thank you for watching. I'll see you all for another video. Cheers.